Yeah, so just wanted to start a little bit by kind of getting an overview of the situation that we find ourselves in. Obviously, you know, the key issue of our time for most people is this cost of living crisis. And we see now that the RPI rate of inflation, the latest rate is 11.1%. And, you know, if you've been looking at that over the last past year, it's just kind of going up 1 to 2% every month. There's absolutely no sign of that slowing down. And of course, more worryingly, most people's wages aren't keeping up with inflation to match that, and that's been the case for a long time now. And you know, I think this is driven by a lot of things. I work in supply chain, and I remember kind of just after the COVID pandemic, something that I would do would be order shipping containers. And I remember seeing the price kind of shoot up from $1,600 to $16,000 within the space of a few months. And obviously you can see, you know, when you think about how supply chains work, that the root cause of a lot of our price increases come from things like that. You know, we need to get goods across the world for things that we need, and that's often added to the cost that we pay. But also, I think, you know, something that's on everybody's minds at the minute is the increase in our utility bills. And you know, I think to be honest with you, I think what's happening there is we're all being ripped off. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that. First of all, is if you look at the profits that were made by some of the energy giants, showing massive profits, billions and billions per quarter, not even per year, which they say they didn't even expect to make. And we also, interestingly, have had to kind of pay for the collapse of all the energy companies who gambled on the prices. So, you know, in a way, I think that's very similar to what happened with the banking crisis, where these kind of greedy speculators who gambled to try and maximise their profits caused an industry to collapse. And we have to pick up the pieces for that. That's why, you know, we're told that the wholesale cost of energy is going up. So why is our standing charge going up? Well, a lot of the reason for that is that we have to pick up the pieces for that. And of course, you know, this is all a deliberate move at some point as well. It doesn't cost, you know, 50 times more to pull resources out of the ground. People and companies are making absolute fortunes from this. And the Tories tell us that there's nothing that can be done about it, that it's a global problem. You know, because they have this kind of ideological fixation on keeping this system running, and it's the same system that screws us over, whilst all their pals make absolute fortunes, which we've seen through the pandemic especially, when, you know, there's this huge wealth extraction from the bottom up to the top. You know, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos increase their wealth by billions. And you know, it's such a self-destructive system. If you take that example of the container prices, when that's because there's so much demand and so little supply. If they can charge 10 times what they were charging, where's the incentive for them to invest in more capacity? It isn't there. So, you know, I don't think there's really any end in sight for this, unfortunately. And the government response is pretty pathetic. They've offered us £400 off our bills, which are going up by £2,000, so it's not even going to really put a dent in what most people are going to feel. And of course, we've also got, you know, we're being told especially that there's nothing that can be done as well because of the war in Ukraine. And I think, you know, the issue there is really that there's no serious diplomatic attempt to de-escalate that war. And the government is, in fact, you know, kind of happy to prolong it and keep putting weapons into there and thinks that we should all have to pay the cost for that. And unfortunately as well, and this isn't a point of bitterness, I think it's important that the Labour Party isn't really offering any alternative. I think under Starmer, the Labour Party is kind of trying to distance itself as much as possible from what Corbyn offered. And that's dangerous for us as well because, you know, we have absolutely nobody putting across our voice in Parliament as the Labour Party were doing a few years ago. So, you know, we face very difficult times. The cost of living crisis is affecting us all. I think it's really easy for people to feel kind of demoralised about this, but I don't think we necessarily should, because I think there are plenty of opportunities here for us. So we only have to look at the vote last night, the vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister, and although he did survive that, you know, the numbers against him were pretty huge. And I think Boris Johnson now and the Tory party are a party in huge crisis, and it's up to us to try and capitalise on this. And another part of the reason why I think they are in crisis is because they know that they're not going to do what is needed to be done to solve any of the issues they face. because they're so committed to keeping things as they are, whilst the system kind of crumbles around us. And you know, they're preparing for this. They know what's, you know, they know they're going to face opposition from us, and that's why they have things like the police and crime bill to try and stop us protesting, stop us getting out on the streets. We've seen recently what they're trying to do with the trains, with the restrict trade union rights even further, say that the RMT have to provide a minimum service, which will essentially, you know, effectively make strikes completely useless. And you know, in that sense, I think that actually the timing of this demo is perfect. It's, you know, just over a week away. The Tories are on the ropes, and I think we need to use this to really kind of be the start of, you know, we've had a period of kind of demoralisation after the Labour defeat. We've been demobilised by COVID, and now we need to really start to rebuild. And I know, like the TUC, I think it's very good that they've called this, because you know, a lot of trade unionists are quite critical of the TUC. They're certainly not as radical as many of us would like them to be. But they've called this demo. I think that's a very positive step, and I think we should do everything we can to support it. The other thing that I think is another positive step is that the People's Assembly have now announced a membership scheme. So I've been involved with the People's Assembly for a number of years, and you know, quite a lot of times people want to get involved and say, how do I join? And it's kind of, well, you can't really join, but now you can join, you can sign up. And you know, there's two good things there. One is that we can, you know, really build better networks locally, and you know, I would encourage everybody to sign up to the People's Assembly. There's different amounts you can pay every month. If you can't afford to pay anything, there's a free option. But also that money will be put to very good use to help further build and strengthen the kind of broad coalition that the People's Assembly is. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I think it is important that we build the People's Assembly locally, because you know, what we've done in Manchester over the last couple of years, I wanted to give a few examples. We've had some really long strikes in Manchester. The two most notable ones were the Go North West bus strike for Unite, and then the Shep strike that recently ended. And both of those ended with wins, and both of those, you know, we were there to support those strikers. And of course, I'm not saying that, you know, we helped them win, but I know for a fact from speaking to them that support went down really well. And then, of course, we've been doing lots of positive stuff around the cost of living crisis. You know, we in Manchester were the first to call the cost of living demos here. We got approached by the Trades Council, who could kind of see it on the horizon, and we worked with them. And I think, you know, we've really managed to get the message out there that people are sick of this and they are willing to fight back.